Alright, time for some TF2. Now what do I play? Well, obviously it's gotta be Payload. I wanna ignore the objective for 5 minutes and only push it at the last second. But which map? Hoodoo? Gold Rush? No thanks, I actually wanna have fun today. Thunder Mountain? No, I don't think I'm ready to bring on the thunder yet. Wonderful Cactus Canyon? Oh, right, yeah. I guess I'll just stick with Upward, like always. Yeah, after my umpteenth round on Upward, I thought to myself, man, why do I keep coming back to this map? I think that over half of my playtime of this stupid game has been spent on just that one single map. I may have grown up on 2-Fort, but Upward is where I lived. Man, why do I keep writing these cheesy lines? And I know I'm not alone in this. Upward is one of the most played official maps of all time, right after Turbine and... 2-Fort again. I mean, in the server browse, in the matchmaking screen, the green bar for Upward is so big that it goes off screen. But why is that? Why is Upward such a popular and beloved map? Well, after my 2-Fort video got so popular, I decided to try and answer that question. Now obviously, this video is entirely biased and completely non-scientific, so just look at it as an opinion piece. Ready? Then strap on your card pushing boots and put on your card pushing helmet and also roll with this analogy so we can take a look at why Upward is such a great masterpiece. Payload is pretty freaking fantastic, isn't it? No need to answer because statistics did it for you already. Let's take a look at this chart. I said at this chart. Wait, no, I think Uncle Dane did this joke already. On this chart, we can see that Payload is the most popular game mode on Valve servers. And that doesn't surprise me in the slightest. Now, I won't go into the details about Payload, that deserves its own video. So here's a very quick rundown of what makes it such a great game mode. You see, it's all about the card being the objective. As a big slow-moving bomb on wheels, it's always very obvious where it is on the map. Hoodoo amplified this by giving the bomb a ticking clock as well, and there's even an outline for the card that you can see through walls, something that attack and defense doesn't have. It also encourages attackers to push it by supplying them with ammo and health, as well as supporting them by giving them cover. And while multiple teammates are useful for speeding up the card, they're not necessary as it only takes one single person to capture a control point within a second. Plus, with other teammates on the card or not, it doesn't move extremely fast, and even if it was moving backwards, it would only do it very slowly. That makes it incredibly easy to keep track of the objective at all times. At the same time, defenders are also having an easier time than on something like attack and defense, because the objective has to come to them on a very predictable path. Sneaky backcapping is still possible, though a lot harder to pull off because it actually requires the card to be pushed past all the defenses, rather than just having one sneaky Frenchman walk past everyone. All of that makes Payload one of the most popular and most fun game modes, except for maybe the last point, but we'll somewhat get to that later. So we've concluded that Upward is already on an upward spiral, haha, get it? Because it includes a payload. But maps like Hoodoo and Gold Rush have shown that that alone is not enough to carry a map. So we have to dig a little deeper, or should I rather say, raise a little upper? Okay, my analogies do not work today, just go with it. There's something very special about the map. You may not have noticed it, but the entire thing keeps going up and up and up, i.e. upwards. Maybe they should have named it after that. This is what sets it apart from pretty much all the other Payload maps, in fact every other map in the entire game. Maps like Badwater, Borneo, Barn Blitz, Gold Rush are all on about the same height throughout the entire game. There's a few slopes here and there of course, but if you look at them from a distance, they are pretty flat. Frontier a little less so, as it also takes place on somewhat of a mountain, but there's still only one steep hill on the map, which is also one of the most interesting parts of the map for me. Still, it also doesn't really pull it off as well. Thunder Mountain, Nightfall and Pipeline do add more height variations and even hills, but they're usually reserved to the last points. And only the last stages of each map experiment a little with having to constantly push the cart up a giant incline. But it doesn't end there! Egypt features a lot of verticality, and so does Watergate. Still, they're not really on any mountainside, meaning that continually advancing upwards is also not really a theme of the maps. Once you've climbed a few stairs on Egypt, for example, you don't really have to do it anymore. Watchtower and Offblast seem to embrace this a lot more, with both of them being all about jumping on and off higher platforms, with the control point being one of the highest things on the map. However, considering arena mode isn't available on Valve Pubs anymore, there's not really an easy way to play on these maps. But the only map that comes close to upwards mountaineering is the very first stage of Cactus Canyon. It has almost everything Upward has: slight slopes, incredibly inclines, and even twists and turns. In fact, I think it might actually pull off the theme of verticality even better than Upward. Just one issue though, the map doesn't exist anymore. Same problem as Arena. So just by the process of literal elimination, Upward is the only official map in the game where you're actually constantly going, well, upwards. And because it's such a huge spiral, it also connects the map somewhat by allowing you to see the progress you've made. If you're on the top of the mountain, you can actually peek over the wall and see the first blue spawn. I wish this was a bit more noticeable overall, like by changing the wooden wall to a fence that you can look through. Still, very nice feature. Oh, and you can also lob some stickies into the blue spawn from up here, which is kinda neat and very annoying. But because of that, it's one of the most unique maps in the game. Not because of its art style or its theme, although those greatly depend on the map, but just because of its structure. The entire thing could take place on a volcano or an iceberg, or even consist of nothing but developer textures, and it would still be more unique than many other maps. It's kinda like Twofold in that regard, in that it is perfectly recognizable. Just like that map, even if you had only the silhouette of it, you could still tell that it's undeniably Upward. Or you'd confuse it with Offblast, oops! Nonetheless, it's still very iconic and one of a kind. If Twofold represents the entirety of Capture the Flag, then Upward represents Payload. But no, that is still not the only or even the main reason why this map is so brilliant. So we have to keep going. Alright, I'll just say this. I'm not a map designer. I made some Doom maps back in the day, even a Doom version of 2.4, but that's about it. And even that one has some glaring issues that I would just quietly pretend don't exist. But despite all that, map design has always fascinated me and will continue doing so. Because TF2 isn't just about the classes or the weapons, it's about the maps too. A good map makes best use of all the classes and provides a smooth and well-paced gameplay. A bad map, on the other hand, is something like Hoodoo or Junction. Cluttered, too cramped, and full of jokes. So where does Upward fit into that spectrum of maps? Honestly, I think all the way to the right with the great maps. But why? Well, I can't exactly analyze every single nook and cranny of this map because I genuinely don't think I would be doing it justice. So I will just talk about some very obvious things I've noticed. Just a disclaimer, I may be completely wrong on this, so if someone like UAK Crash wants to tell me what an idiot I'm in the comments, go for it. I'd love to learn more too. But I'm going to try anyway. One thing I've noticed is that Upward is a map with barely any choke points. There's the caves, of course, which are pretty annoying. An engineer can just set up a sentry on the balcony and shut down the cart. But even then, there's a lot of ways to attack such nests, like by jumping down the cliff or by going over the hill and using the second cave entrance. And aside from that one issue, the cave is actually pretty great. It provides you with a lot of cover, allows you to easily retreat if you're attacking, and even has not one but 2 medkits and ammo packs. The other very obvious choke is the last point. I will admit, that choke is pretty bad and I don't like it at all. For red it's great because the spawn is right there. For blue, less so. They have to push the cart through a very narrow entrance while sentries are raining bullets and rockets on them from above. But even a fantastic map can have some big flaws. If every pork chop were perfect, we wouldn't have hot dogs. And it's not like last points are easy to balance either. All Payload maps suffer from the same issues and very often require an übercharge to take out all the sentries. Badwater, Borneo, Barmlets, even Swiftwater are all fun until they reach the last point. I don't think that a Payload map without a choke at the last point is even easy to implement. Thunder Mountain's last stage somewhat avoids this by just having a giant tower, but the rest of the map is just filled with chokes. The cliffside is where a lot of matches just end, because that is the real choke. But despite all these problems, I think Upward still somewhat redeems itself. Red may get a balcony right in front of their spawn, which is perfect for sentries, but blue gets an even bigger balcony with cover on the opposite side. Plus, they can even attack by going through the basement. It still usually requires an übercharge to take off the sentries, but like on Badwater, you can still go demo and shoot some stickies through the window, or just go sniper to annoy the NGs. That is not all the map has to offer, however. In fact, upwards verticality greatly works in favor of distributing high and low ground between the two teams. Again, I don't know much about level design, but as we all know, having the high ground will usually give you an advantage over whoever has a low ground. We can see this best in this classic Star Wars clip.
I'll try spinning, that's a good trick.
Was that the right one? Nah, never mind. But let's look at it closely. The first control point gives red the high ground over blue, who has the low ground. Blue starts out at the bottom of the hill and has to push the cart through a narrow trench and past the shack. Meanwhile, red has the advantage of being able to easily fall back into the shack or behind the hills, whereas blue is mostly out in the open. After capturing, however, it is blue who gains the high ground. They still have to push the cart through the caves up the incline, however, they also gain the advantage of the mountain and the building overlooking red's spawn. Whatever defenses red has are below blue at this point. The caves are a different story, but as I pointed out earlier, blue has enough ways to attack the sentries within. For the third point, it switches again. Now red starts out at the top of the mountain and blue at the bottom. They also have to push the cart around the cliffside and up the wooden spiral. They can use the shack to their advantage, however the cart remains at the low ground. For the final point, however, both teams have the high and low ground as I explained earlier. Both get a balcony and blue also the basement. At this point they're pretty much equal and it's just about who can defend better and who can attack better. Let's compare this to a much flatter map, Badwater. At the very first point, red again has the higher ground due to the giant hill, with blue at the bottom. Afterwards, both teams are immediately equal, except that red has the advantage of being able to reach the building faster and set up defenses there sooner. Blue can still get there, however. For the third point, both are equal again. Blue has to push the cart up a small hill and red could make good use of the buildings on the sides. They are hindered, however, because they have to run around the entire map, giving blue the advantage because they couldn't build sentries fast enough. And on last, it's again equal. It's almost exactly like Upward, just on a much larger scale and without a basement. Both teams get balconies again, but red sentries are usually below the balconies at this point. This last is a lot less annoying than Upwards in my experience, mostly due to the choke point not being as narrow and blue having an easier time setting up teleporters in the many buildings. Compared to Upward, Badwater's distribution of high and low ground is a lot less versatile in my opinion, with both teams usually being on the same level. While that is perfectly fine, it also makes the map a tad less interesting for me. I still prefer Upwards verticality, but I feel like we're getting closer to the giant reason why the map is so great. Alright, here we are, the meat of the map, and in my opinion the main reason why Upward is so well designed and beloved by everyone. Upward is one of those maps that's absolutely fantastic at making every single class shine in some way or another. There's always an area where one of the classes can not only make the best use of their abilities, but also outperform the other classes. It's hard for me to tell where to even start, so I'm just going to begin by talking about which aspect of the map benefits the most classes. And that of course is its open space. Upward is huge, like it's giant. I think it is one of the only maps in the entire game that you can walk through without ever being stopped by a gate or a bottleneck or anything that would slow down your pace. Well, except for the last point. Choke points, always ruining my plans! The verticality of the maps creates a ton of slopes, angles, hills and ramps. Now, which classes benefit the most from these things? No need to answer, I'll just let this footage speak for itself. Just look at how absolutely quickly a demo or a soldier can get from one point to another just by utilizing explosions, surfing and trimping. They are unhindered by anything, they can go completely wild. It's absolutely perfect if you crave speed or if you just want to go market gardening. And even aside from that, all that open space benefits other verticality options such as sentry jumping or jetpacking. It is easily one of the least claustrophobic maps in the entire game, and that's a really good thing. Because it shows that even in a class-based shooter like TF2, you can still have a very huge map that doesn't need to be slowed down by chokes, except last, doors or other things like that. But if you don't even care about that, there's still a huge amount of great jumps you can make as pretty much all the classes. Scout obviously benefits the most from this, as there's a lot of obstacles and ledges for him to jump on and jump off of. He can really be a force to be reckoned with. Spy benefits from this in a similar vein, like father like son I guess. While he can't double jump, he can still use the obstacles, stairs and slopes to his advantage for some tricks and stair stabs. All just to jump on to hide from pyros. And if you are very clever, you can even think of some very neat jumps you can take to save a lot of time. Like this very famous jump on the cliff bridge. Or this one into the shack at the first red spawn. Or just drop down on this balcony with the medkit. Or jump on this wooden gate. Man, there's so many of them and I still find new ones all the time while playing. I just love how much it rewards movement and air strafing more than many other maps. So you can really use a lot of skill to outperform other players, no matter which class you're playing. Alright, I know what you're thinking. Big open spaces? That also means huge sniper sightlines. Doesn't that make the map extremely unbalanced in favor of snipers? And the answer... not really? I mean, I've definitely had sniper issues on this map a lot, but I'm not sure if it was more than on other maps. There always seems to be something between you and the sniper. No matter where he looks, something usually blocks his view. Now, I don't play much snipers, so I can't really say much about it, but it seems reasonably balanced in my opinion. There's usually an alternate path that you can take to avoid them, which a lot of maps, like Turbine is a bad example, don't have. For example, first point, pick the leftmost spawn exit and try to stay behind the wooden pillars. Second point, just walk along the cliff and surprise the sniper from behind. Third point, stay inside the house or jump off onto the lower wooden bridges and, again, surprise them from behind. These are just strategies for the blue team, however, that is because red seems to benefit the most from sniper on upward due to the distribution of high and low ground. There's always a higher place somewhere for them and it's usually within walking distance to a medkit or an ammo pack. That seems to be the case with most maps, however. So despite being such an open-ended map, it doesn't feel like it favors snipers too much. The amount of obstacles that previously benefited Scout and Spy now also protect Medic and Heavy from getting their brains shot out. Man, I just spent so much time talking about a class I don't even particularly like, so let's just move on to something else. NG! If Upward benefits Soldier and Demo, then it also really benefits Engineer. I wonder if that has something to do with the fact that it was released with the Engineer update. I bet it does. I mean, hauling buildings was even teased on Upward before it even came out. There are oh so many great building spots. I won't list them all, I feel like that's Uncle Dane's job. Many of them are pretty obvious, like the ones for red on last and on first. Or the sentry spot for blue. You know the one I'm talking about. But some spots are also pretty sneaky, like this hidden teleporter spot. And the high abundance of rocks and bushes on the map makes hiding buildings incredibly easy. I personally love this teleporter spot right here. And who hasn't died to a mini sentry hidden in a rock before? And let's not forget that you can also hide stickies in bushes and rocks. The fun doesn't stop, or start depending on which side you're on. Oh yeah, and there's cliffs for pyro to airblast people off of. I think the map only needs water at this point and it would cover all the bases. So it really does give the classes a ton of room to shine. I could go into depth about each single class, but I think that if I did that, I'd have to make 9 separate videos, each of which are as long as this one. So just use your imagination for the rest. It's funny though. In my other video I talked about how much 2-Fort forces classes into only being useful in certain scenarios, whereas Upward gives each class a ton of freedom to live out their true potential. It's also way more open-ended. It's kinda like an anti-2-Fort in a lot of ways. Man, I can't believe that after all this I haven't talked about the actual artistic design of Upward. It is simply put a beautiful map. I mean, obviously it's made by Valve. But it's really incredible how Valve was able to make a few desert, rock and wood textures work so well together. The darker red and blue buildings really do pop out against the bright beige dirt, which also pops out against the dark blue sky. I said that it could also take place on a volcano or an iceberg, and while that would be a lot more interesting, I'm still very happy with the final product. It's actually incredibly similar to Big Rock aesthetic wise. Huh, that's curious. Upward was released with the Engineer update and Big Rock with the Mecha update, which introduced the Mecha Engineer. And both maps are incredibly big and greatly favor Engineer. Coincidence? I think not. Yeah, no, actually it might be. I mean, most maps in TF2 are just in the desert. But look, it's yet another TF2-like map, just like Doomfort. Two teams fighting in the desert in the middle of nowhere. Why are we even fighting here? Not even the update page knows, as it urges Blue to blow it up just to be safe. And even that perfectly captures TF2's gameplay of often almost arbitrarily capturing or blowing up bases. And if you need even more proof that Upward also embodies TF2, just take a look at the map from a bird's eye view. Can you see it? It's the TF2 logo. It even has the missing circle in the middle. No, but seriously, I was talking with a friend of mine about how Dota 2's map actually looked like the Dota 2 logo, and then I joked about how Upward also looked like the TF2 logo, when I realized that, yeah, it genuinely does. So, considering that, was this intentionally made by Valve, or is it just a coincidence as a result of the spiral nature of the map? Who knows, but either way, it's pretty cool. So if Doomfort is the DE dust of TF2 when it comes to being iconic, and that's real iconic and not Ubisoft iconic, then Upward is DE dust when it comes to popularity. No matter where and when, someone will be playing Upward. And I mean, the same applies to TF2. Valve can mess up the game as much as they like, even stop updating it altogether. But the community will always be there and they will host servers and enjoy themselves. You just can't kill a game like Team Fortress 2 just like how you can kill a map like Upward. Both are just too much fun to play. And that's really the final word. And as we're nearing the end of the video, as I always ask, what do you guys think? Is Upward one of your favorite maps too? It's definitely my number one. I can play it all day and still come back to it the next day. And maybe I even missed something in this video, something that makes the map great for you. Or maybe you hate it. If you do, then I'm genuinely interested to hear why, aside from it maybe being overrated. Or maybe there's a custom version of the map that you like more. Just let me know, as I always try to read as many comments as I can, even if I don't reply. And now, just to wrap things up, it's patrons thanking time. A very great thanks to Alexis Chavez, Clayton Yonero, Lasse Solbjerg, Ren Marty, Storrent, Zachary Leclerc, and Xenomite. Thanks for your support as always. And to everyone else, if you want to support me too, you can also become a patron, but just watching my videos and perhaps even subscribing is more than enough. But that is it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. Have a wonderful day and goodbye.